Everyone. Welcome to the September 2nd meeting of the City of Miami's Planning and Appeals Board. Thank you all for your attendance. We will stand for a moment of silence, quickly followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. Can we call the roll?
Member Altabe?
Yeah, here.
Member Collins?
Here.
Member Dominguez?
Here.
Member Gersten? Member Gersten? Member Parrish?
Here.
Member Vidal? Member Vidal? Member Ziegler? Member Ziegler?
We can't hear you, Mr. Ziegler.
Here. You hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yeah.
Member
Okay.
Parasoff?
Here.
Vice Chair Torrens?
Here.
Member Garvalia?
Here.
Chair Garvalia. We have quorum?
Thank you. Do we have any absentee waivers?
No, I did not receive any from Mr. Vidal or Mr. Gersten.
And do I need to acknowledge the alternative board member?
If you please.
The alternative board member is here tonight, and he is acting in his full capacity as a fully vetted voting board member. And I do see Mr. Gersten. I saw his face for a second, so I believe he's
Mr. Gersten, okay.
Mr. Gersten.
I'm here. Yep.
Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and read the special announcement statement of the chair.
Yes.
Pursuant to Executive Order number 20-69 issued by the Office of Governor Ron DeSantis, as extended by Executive Order number 20-193 on August 7th, 2020, municipalities may conduct meetings of their governing boards without having a quorum of its members physically present or at any specific location, and by utilizing communications, media technologies such as telephonic or video conferencing, as provided by Section 120-54(5)(b)(2) Florida statutes. As such, the members of the Planning, Zoning, and Appeals Board are appearing remotely for this meeting. Procedures for the public comment will be explained by the Assistant City Attorney shortly. Thank you. So we'll go ahead and, unless there's any swearing-ins or anything we need to do before she reads her statement.
Yes, I could go ahead and swear in all city staff. Give me 1 second to promote applicable city staff. So the city staff members that I have to swear in are Miss Ellis. We have Brandis Howard. Can you please turn your videos on? We have Jeremy Gallagher. We have Sue Trone. Sue, if you need to be sworn in, please turn your video on. I believe that's it.
Erica, I need to be sworn in as well, please.
Oh, I'm sorry, Joe. All those who intend to testify on this or any other matters, please stand and raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Say yes or I do.
I do.
Elia, can you turn on your audio?
Yes, I do.
Brandis, can you turn on your audio? Sutron, please turn on your audio. Say yes or I do.
Yes.
Yes, I do.
And Mr. Pena, are you sworn in? Mr. Santana? Okay. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Say yes or I do.
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Amber, you can go ahead.
Thank you. Any person who is a lobbyist pursuant to Chapter 2, Article 6 of the City Code must register with the city clerk and comply with related city requirements for lobbyists before appearing before the Planning, Zoning, and Appeals Board. A person may not lobby a city official, board member, or staff member until registering. A copy of the code section about lobbyists is available in the city clerk's office or online at municode.com. Any person making a presentation, formal request, or petition to the board concerning real property must make the disclosures required by the city code in writing. A copy of this city code section is available at the office of the city clerk or online at municode.com. The agenda and the materials for each item on the agenda for this virtual meeting was published and made available to the board in advance of the meeting. The materials are also available during business hours at the city clerk's office and online 24 hours a day at miamigov.com. Any person may be heard by the board through the chair and pursuant to the published notice for not more than 2 minutes on any proposition before the board unless modified by the chair. Since this is a virtual meeting as authorized by the governor of the state of Florida, members of the public wishing to provide public comment can do so by uploading a pre-recorded video or voice message, pre-register for a callback to provide live public comment, or submit public comment via the city's public comment form. I'll provide more details in a moment, and more details can be found by visiting miamigov.com/virtual boards. All comments submitted will be included as part of the record for this virtual meeting and will be considered by the board prior to taking any action. The city will accommodate any speakers desiring to appear in person at City Hall, subject to all applicable emergency measures in place to prevent the further spread of COVID-19. Such speakers will be subject to screening for symptoms of COVID-19. Any persons exhibiting symptoms will not be permitted to enter City Hall. All interested parties are required to abide by all state, county, and local emergency orders and are urged to remain at home and practice social distancing. If the proposition is being continued or rescheduled, the opportunity to be heard may be at such later date before the board acts on such proposition. When addressing the board, the member of the public must first state his or her name, address, and what item will be spoken about. When the board takes action or votes on any proposition, it shall do so by a roll call vote to be recorded and included in the record. Anyone wishing to appeal any decision made by the board for any matter considered at this meeting may need a verbatim record of the item. A video of this meeting may be requested at the Office of the Communications or viewed online at miamigov.com. Please silence all cell phones and other noise-making devices. Any person with a disability requiring assistance, auxiliary aids, or services for this meeting may notify the hearing board's liaison. Please note, board members may have generally been briefed by city staff on items in today's agenda. PZ items shall proceed according to Section 7.1.4 of the Miami 21 zoning ordinance as temporarily modified by emergency ordinance numbers 13903. Parties for any PZ items, including any applicant, appellant, appellee, and any qualified intervener, as well as any representatives and any experts testifying on behalf of the applicant, appellant, or appellee may either make arrangements with hearing boards to be physically present at City Hall to be sworn in, or may appear virtually and make individual arrangements to be sworn in person at their location by an individual qualified to perform such a duty. Also pursuant to that ordinance, members of the general public are not required to be sworn in. Pursuant to Ordinance 13914, city staff may be sworn in by city hearing board staff or city clerk for any planning, zoning, or quasi-judicial hearings remotely by audio-video communication technology from a location within the state of Florida, provided city staff can be positively identified. The members of the board shall disclose any ex parte communications to remove the presumption of prejudice pursuant to Florida Statute Section 286.0115 and Section 7.1.4.5 of the Miami 21 zoning ordinance. Staff will then briefly present each item to be heard. For applications requiring board approval or recommendation, The applicant will then present its application or request to the board. If the applicant agrees with the staff recommendation, the board may proceed to its deliberation and decision. The applicant may also waive the right to an evidentiary hearing on the record. The city requires anyone requesting action by the board to disclose before the hearing anything provided to anyone for agreement to support or withhold objection to the requested action pursuant to City Code Section 2-8. Regarding access to this virtual meeting, the City of Miami is using Zoom to hold its September 2nd, 2020 virtual planning, zoning, and appeals board meeting. Zoom is a cloud platform for video and audio conferencing, collaboration, chat, and webinars across mobile devices, desktops, telephones, and room systems. In order to ensure that the public has the ability to view the meeting, the city's communications department will broadcast the meeting through all usual channels and avenues that are provided when a planning, zoning, and appeals board meeting is held fully at City Hall. The meeting can be viewed live on Miami TV at miamigov.com/TV and on Comcast Channel 77 within the city. The broadcast will have closed captioning. It will also be broadcast on YouTube. Additionally, the city has selected a virtual platform that does not require the public to purchase or download any additional software or equipment to watch this meeting. Aside from the Zoom platform and that participants will be appearing remotely, the public will have no discernible difference in their ability to watch the meeting. Regarding public comment for this virtual meeting, the city has developed several new methods of ensuring public comment for a virtual meeting. It has established 4 new options. The first new option allows the public to provide public comment via the city's dedicated public comment voicemail by calling 305-250-5352, where individuals can leave a 2-minute message that will be played during the virtual board meeting. The second new option allows for the public to submit a 2-minute video to be played during the virtual board meeting. The third new option allows the public to submit comments via the city's online comment form. The comments submitted through the comment form were distributed to board members and city administration throughout the day so that the board members can consider them prior to taking any action. Additionally, the online comment form will remain open during the meeting to accept comments and distribute to the board members up until the chair closes public comment. The fourth new option allows the public to pre-register online or by calling 305-250-5354 to provide live public comment by phone during the virtual meeting. For all of these 4 new options, all the comments received will be included in the public record of the meeting. The city created a simple set of instructions explaining how the public may submit their comments using these options. These instructions were provided in the notice to the public and published online at miamigov.com/virtualboards. Additionally, like any other planning, zoning, and appeals board meeting, the public may provide public comment at City Hall. The city set up a terminal in the event members of the public travel to City Hall to provide public comment. However, as previously mentioned, due to COVID-19, all speakers desiring to appear in person will be subject to all applicable emergency measures in place to prevent the further spread of COVID-19. Speakers who appear in person will be subject to screening for symptoms of COVID-19. Any persons exhibiting any symptoms will not be permitted to enter City Hall, but will be able to participate through the remote options described above. The 5 public comment options established and provided for this virtual planning, zoning, and appeals board meeting comply with Section 286.0114 and Section 120.54 of the Florida statutes. The city published an agenda as well as included in the notice to the public pursuant to City Code the items and topics that will be discussed at this virtual planning, zoning, and appeals board meeting. Additionally, the public has been given the opportunity to provide comment during the meeting, which is at City Hall or via the online public comment form, and within a reasonable proximity in time before and during the meeting via the public comment voicemail, online public comment form, the public comment video upload, and the live public comment by phone. Moreover, Section 286.0114, subsection 4C of the Florida statute specifically authorizes the city to prescribe procedures or forms for an individual to use in order to inform the board or commission of a desire to be heard, to indicate his or her support, opposition, or neutrality on a proposition. The city, through its 5 public comment forms, has provided 5 different procedures to indicate, among other things, his or her support, opposition, and neutrality. The city provided information on how to submit comments in the notice to the public and on a dedicated webpage. Board members, are you comfortable with all of the notice provisions set forth and these uniform rules of procedure we've established for this virtual meeting?
We are.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any minutes to approve? You're on mute.
Sorry. No, we do not have any minutes to approve. There are two staff members that I need to swear in.
Right, go ahead.
Mr. Posada and Mr. Garrido, can you please turn your cameras on and unmute yourselves?
I'm here.
Mr. Garrido? Mr. Garrido, please unmute yourself. All those who intend to testify in this or any other matters, please stand and raise your right hand.
And I raise my hand.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Say yes, sir, I do.
Yes, I do.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any changes to tonight's agenda?
Yes, we do have a change to the agenda. It is in regards to PZAB item 3, file ID 7678. The item is being it was scheduled for today, but there was an issue with noticing. The item has been renoticed now for September 16th. And the applicant, Ms. Escara, she's here and aware.
Any other changes tonight?
That is the only change that we have right now.
Is there any of the applicants that are on Zoom that have any changes to tonight's agenda or any public comment? Nope.
If I may, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I was alerted that there might be a deferral on the seawall ordinance.
That there might be, or
Yeah, sorry, this is Jeremy. I can speak to that.
Great.
Yeah, we're actually working on a broader revision. That is a minor modification to Appendix B, which governs seawalls, and we're working on a broader revision that we're going to bring. So, in light of that, we'd like to actually withdraw this item so that we can bring the broader item in about a month or so.
okay, so item 1 has been withdrawn. Item 3 is essentially withdrawn as it's being renoticed for a future meeting.
Not withdrawn, but yes, it's going to be on the September 16th agenda. The applicant is not withdrawing their application. They're not withdrawing their application. It will be placed on the September 16th agenda. I'm sorry?
There's no action for us to take on either of these two items. So can we proceed to our first item?
Okay. Thank you. PZ2, file ID 7719. A resolution of the City of Miami Planning, Zoning, and Appeals Board with attachments recommending approval of 2 exceptions and warrants as follows. An exception pursuant to Article 6, Table 13, and Article 7, Section 7.1.2.6 of the ordinance number 13114 as amended, Miami 21 Code, and Chapter 4, Section 4-5 and Section 4-7C of the City Code to permit, with City Commission approval, an alcohol service establishment, microbrewery, and brew pub in excess of 5,000 square feet in the Flagler Specialty District 2, an exception pursuant to Article 7, Section 7.2.3.B.1 and Article 7, Section 7.1.2.6 of the Miami Code to permit alterations which enlarge the nonconformity of nonconforming structures to an extent of less than 50% of the total square footage of the nonconforming structure. And 3, a warrant pursuant to Article 6, Section 6.3.2.1 and Article 7, Section 7.1.2.4 and 7.1.3.2 of the Miami Code to allow an outdoor dining area comprised of 34 seats with 1,492 square feet on the real property designated as T6-80-0, Urban Core Transect Zone Open, located approximately 60 Northeast 2nd Avenue, 169 East Flagler Street, Miami, Florida, is more particularly described in Exhibit A, making findings containing a severability clause and providing for an effective date.
Before we get into this item, were there any pre-recorded items for public comment that we should hear on any of these items?
No, there are no pre-recorded public comments. There were no voicemails. There were no persons who registered for callback. There were 2 public comments. One was emailed to the board last evening, and one was emailed about an hour ago.
Can we check if there's anyone in City Hall who wants to speak on this item?
No, let me check. But I was told that no one is there.
All right, so can we go ahead and hear from the city, please? Is there a city staff person? on this?
Yes, she's being promoted right now. Ms. Cerise?
Hi, good evening. This is Elia Cerise, Planner 2 with the
It's very hard to hear you.
department.
I don't know if anyone else is having that. You're very low.
Can you hear me now?
It's still faint, but I'll focus.
Let me try without the headphones. Can you hear me this way?
Much better.
Okay, perfect. This is Elia Cerise, Planner 2 with the Planning Department. I'll go ahead and share my screen. Can everyone see my?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Yes.
So the item before you this evening is an exception to allow an alcohol service establishment. In this case, it is a microbrewery and brew pub that is in excess of 5,000 square feet for the property located at 60 Northeast 2nd Avenue. The Planning Department's recommendation is for approval with conditions.
I'm not on screen.
The subject property is shown here outlined in red. It's located at the intersection of East Flagler Street and Northeast 2nd Avenue. It is zoned T680 and is located within the Urban Central Business District, which is in the downtown Brickell Net area. Pursuant to Chapter 4 of the City Code, the property is also located within the Flagler Specialty District. Just for some background, specialty districts are defined as neighborhoods or areas within the city that have a unique or distinctive characteristic and have been identified as suitable for higher concentrations of alcohol service establishments. So in the instance of the Flagler Specialty District, it was established to promote investment in the urban core and then to activate downtown outside of the normal business hours. So it's intended to attract people to downtown, making this a destination beyond the typical 9 to 5 hours. So the property is the site of the Alfred I. DuPont building, which is a locally designated historic building, as well as the 4-story DuPont parking garage and 1-story annex. These buildings were constructed in the 1930s and 40s, respectively. So therefore, they predate the Miami 21 code and do not necessarily comply with all of the current development standards. This will be important when we speak to the request for one of the exceptions. So the properties is considered a single development site, but when we're referring to the historic components that exist here, it's divided into 2 parcels. Parcel A, which is shown here in orange, pertains to the limits of the historic building. And parcel B are shown in blue, which corresponds to the parking garage and the annex, which are not locally designated structures. Through the exception process, the applicant seeks to redevelop a tenant space along Northeast 2nd Avenue. It's located at 60 Northeast 2nd Avenue that occupies a portion of both Parcel A and Parcel B with a microbrewery and brew pub. The establishment will occupy approximately 11,000 square feet of floor area, of which 9,000 is existing tenant space located on the ground level along Northeast 2nd Avenue. So as it relates to the image that we just saw, parcel A is outlined in orange and parcel B is outlined in the blue color. It should be noted that all of the improvements to parcel A are interior build-outs, and this is intended for the areas associated with the brewery. So the proposed design was reviewed by the city's Historic Preservation Office, who confirmed that because these are all interior renovations, the improvements to parcel A does not require a special or a standard certificate of appropriateness or any additional review from historic preservation, since the modifications don't affect the exterior of the DuPont building, nor do they detract from the architectural and historic value of the property. So to walk you through the floor plan, on the first floor, they're proposing approximately 5,600 square feet for the brew pub. There's seating areas and a bar. As well, on the first floor is a kitchen area and a mill room that's 340 square feet. So this is where they will be producing the beer that they are brewing. Above the one-story annex building, the applicant is proposing to construct a roof terrace beer garden, as well as almost 2,000 square feet of an addition. It'll be 2 stories, and it's constructed of repurposed and redesigned shipping containers. The beer garden will consist of 34 seats within approximately 1,500 square feet. And this is a view of the third level. It's designed as multi-purpose space and will cantilever essentially over the roof terrace below. This is a view looking south on Northeast 2nd Avenue. You can see the 2-story addition above that 1-story annex building. And again, it's composed of repurposed shipping containers. And the idea is that it's intended to capture this industrial warehouse look of a brewery, but situated within the urban context. Again, there's no modifications being proposed to the exterior of the DuPont building, but the applicant is proposing new storefront along the ground level of parcel B. So this is the area right below the 2-story addition. And they're also proposing to preserve the existing black granite that matches the facade of the DuPont building. So it'll create a consistent facade along Northeast 2nd Avenue. And this is another view of the addition looking north. So pursuant to Article 6, Section 6.3.6b of Miami 21, the microbrewery use is permitted as an alcohol service establishment within the specialty district. And again, the Flagler is intended and designated to be a specialty district. However, the size of the proposed floor area of the establishment exceeds 5,000 square feet. Therefore, the applicant is required to seek an exception that requires City Commission approval pursuant to Article 6, Table 13 of Miami 21. The second exception is pursuant to Article 7, Section 7.2.3b1, which will permit alterations which enlarge the nonconformity of the nonconforming structure by less than 50%. This is needed to accommodate the 2-story addition that they're proposing above the 1-story annex building. And lastly, the applicant is requesting a warrant pursuant to Article 6, Section 6.3.21 to allow an outdoor dining component on the 2nd floor of the annex that will complement the operations of the proposed microbrewery. So in regards to request number 1, the exception to allow the alcohol service establishment in excess of 5,000 square feet, the applicant has provided a business plan and analysis of the exception criteria pursuant to Chapter 4, Section 4-7C of the City Code. This criteria focuses on all of the operational aspects of the project, including hours of operation, the number of employees, how parking will be accommodated, the number of patrons that can comfortably be accommodated within the establishment, as well as security, traffic, sanitation, any noise attenuation, as well as proximity to residential uses. So because this is downtown, the proposed establishment does have residential neighbors. So an acoustical impact study was prepared by Duggar and Associates and submitted with the application, which confirmed that any of the noise activity associated with the use would be attenuated due to limited and obstructed lines of sight to the nearest residential building. The report also recommended several design strategies to ensure compliance with the noise ordinance pursuant to Chapter 36 of the City Code, which have been incorporated into the conditions of the approval. The Planning Department finds that the proposal complies with the applicable criteria of Chapter 4. As previously stated, both the Alfred DuPont building and annex building are legal non-conforming structures, as they were permitted prior to Miami 21 and do not fully comply with all of the current development standards. The biggest non-conformity that we see is the required setback. Both buildings are located at the base building line, where in the T6 transect zone, we require a 10-foot setback before the building can start. So in order for the applicant to construct a 2-story addition, which encroaches into the first layer setback, they are required to request an exception pursuant to Article 7, Section 7.2.3B1, which permits alterations that enlarge the nonconformity of this nonconforming structure. The key with this exception is that the enlargement cannot exceed 50% of the total square footage of the existing nonconforming structure. So through this analysis, staff calculated the extent of the alterations, which revealed that of the almost 2,000 square feet addition that the applicant is proposing, only approximately 163 square feet are located within the first layer. So 79 square feet on the first floor and 84 square feet on the third floor. Staff confirmed that there have been no recent alterations to the DuPont building or annex that have resulted in increases in floor area, and that the 163 square feet that's proposed within this first layer is significantly lower than the 50% that would be permitted by the exception. And just to demonstrate where the floor area is being located, the dashed black line in each of these diagrams represents the base building line. The blue line that you see in each of the diagrams represents the first layer setback. So any of the areas that are highlighted in green represent encroachments into that first layer, and those were calculated when determining the degree of the encroachment. And through this analysis, staff finds that the proposed design is consistent with the applicable criteria of the exception, including Article 4, Table 12 of Miami 21. And lastly, the applicant is requesting a warrant to allow an outdoor dining component on their roof terrace. An analysis of the criteria pursuant to Article 6, Section 6.3.21 shows that the proposed outdoor dining area is contained within the boundaries of the property. It's located on the second level, so there's no concerns of this disrupting the safe flow of pedestrians within the public right-of-way. And just to recap, the layout is comprised of 34 seats, and it'll be contained within approximately 1,500 square feet. And staff found that the outdoor dining has been designed to meet the design review criteria of Article 4, Table 12. And since there's a lot of information that was covered, this is just a quick summary of the project and the request. Again, it's located at 60 Northeast 2nd Avenue. This site is developed with the historic Alfred DuPont building, as well as the adjacent DuPont parking garage and 1-story annex building. The applicant proposes a microbrewery and brew pub consisting of approximately 11,000 square feet. 9,000 of that already exists, and so they're proposing almost 2,000 square feet expansion on the second and third levels. There are no special requirements from historic preservation since the modifications to the portions of the building that fall within the Alfred DuPont building are not affecting the exterior. And as mentioned, this is located in the Flagler Specialty District. Article 6 of Miami 21 allows microbreweries within specialty districts as alcohol service establishments. So to revisit the request, the applicant is requesting an exception to allow the alcohol service establishment in excess of 5,000 square feet in floor area. Staff finds that it complies with all applicable criteria. In regards to the exception to permit the alterations which enlarge the nonconformity, staff also finds that it complies. And lastly, the warrant to permit an outdoor dining area on the second level roof terrace. Staff finds it to comply with all applicable criteria. We did receive letters of support. The applicant included numerous letters with the application, and then through the public hearing process or public comment process, we did receive one letter of support. So with that, in conclusion, the planning department finds that the uses that are proposed by the applicant are permitted by Miami 21 and align with the goals and objectives of the neighborhood comprehensive plan centered on creating mixed-use neighborhoods, as well as continuing the growth of downtown as a center for cultural and entertainment activities, as well as a base for urban residential living. The requested exceptions and warrants comply with the applicable criteria set forth in Miami 21, as well as Chapter 4 of the City Code. And the Planning Department recommends that PZAB recommends approval to the City Commission with the following conditions listed herein, as well as the conditions that are in your packet. If you have any questions, I'm available to answer those. And that concludes staff's presentation.
Thank you. I'll turn it over to the applicant. I think City did a pretty good job of making your case. Perhaps you'll either have an abbreviated presentation or perhaps allow us to go into public comment and board member comment, maybe just answer questions that come up, but I'll leave it up to you, Ms. Tapinas.
Yes, good evening. I'm Melissa Tapinas with law offices at 200 South Biscayne Boulevard, Miami. I'm going to share my screen. I'm here this evening with Gary Ressler from Ownership, Joe Clark, our project architect, and my colleague, Maritza Harrow. I think staff did an incredible job with their recommendation and their report, so I'll keep this very brief. The goal today is to bring the Florida National Beer and Trust Code to the Alfred DuPont building on historic Flagler Street. As Mr. Reese mentioned, it's within the Flagler Specialty District in the heart of the city's central business district. Approval of this application would advance the city's goal in establishing this district and activating the street level to enhance the pedestrian experience by providing this artfully designed microbrewery, brew pub, and beer garden. The goal of the Flagler district was to establish these kinds of mom and pops amenities for downtown workers, visitors, and tourists to make the most of the concentrated investment in transit, employment, and entertainment opportunities, and especially to revitalize this underutilized area of the city's downtown outside of regular business hours. These are some renderings, updated renderings of the project. If you can see, it's quite attractive. I think, again, staff did an excellent job describing our acoustic study as well as our community outreach. We have letters from residents of 50 Biscayne, which are the closest residential tower to the project. We've met with area stakeholders, received letters of support, and are very excited to bring this project to the city of Miami. We're all available for any questions that you may have, and we thank you for your time.
Thank you. Are there any last minute members of the public at City Hall? Seeing none at City Hall, so we'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the board. Vice Chair.
Yes, this is for Melissa. The containers, is there one container or two? Staff's report said two. Your letter of April 9th said one. And if so, is the one container still going to be cantilevered off the front?
Yes, so that is, there are two containers, but it's made to be all one, and it will be cantilevered off the structure, but not within the public right of way. We're hoping that it will be cantilevered a bit for architectural interest. We're still working with Miami-Dade County and the city of Miami. We believe we'll be able to project a few feet, and that is our goal. But it's still something that requires additional discussions with specifically Miami-Dade County, since it's their right of way. We did have discussions with the county commissioner, and she's very supportive and submitted a letter of support into the record as well. So what do you think about the cantilever? Do you think it's cool?
Yeah, I like the way it looks. I think
so too. Gary Ressler, who's the owner, is very interested in the cantilever as well. So we're very hopeful.
I have a second question. Do you know the flip side of where you want to put this addition? Is it only one story on the other? But that would be First Avenue probably. Is that still just one story over there and just the basic structure? Do you know?
The annex is still one story.
Okay.
Yes, if you're meaning about the annex. Yes.
Right. Yes. Okay. Thank you. That's all. My only question.
Mr. Gersten?
Yes, hi. My question is about the conditions. There's a condition in there about transfer of ownership, which has come up before.
Yep.
And I want to understand how Mr. Ressler and Council Tapanis and staff came to this, and I'd actually like someone to read it again, or read it, because I don't think that it was read all into on this meeting, and I'm just curious about that, and I have some questions to follow up.
Did staff want to take the lead on that? I know.
Yeah,
Nobody.
sure. I'm just I'm pulling up the condition.
This was the subject of much debate, as you can imagine. So I'll let
I
staff.
can imagine, and I really want to hear what council has to say, really. But
Right.
but
I'll let staff go first.
sure.
Okay, so it's condition number 11, and it reads, the exception is limited to the applicant, D Manatee Holdings LLC, or the owner, Alfred I. DuPont Building Partnership LLP. Any other entity must be approved by the planning department and may require a new exception. So what the idea behind that was, the applicant is going through this rather extensive process for an exception. We feel comfortable that if the applicant, D Manatee Holdings, or the owner, Alfred I. DuPont Building Partnership LLP, is not the entity that is operating this particular establishment, it would have to come back to the planning department for review. It would be at the discretion of the planning department whether a new exception would be required.
Okay.
So originally, Mr. Gerstein, the condition read only to apply to D Manatee Holdings, which is the prospective tenant. The condition, we worked with planning and zoning staff, and they extended it to the owner of the property, as well as the idea that any other entity must be approved by the planning department and may require a new exception. This was, again, a deliberate condition and negotiations between the applicant and the city. On one hand, we respect the city's desire to ensure that whatever other tenant of this area will be respectful of the conditions, the operation plan, the acoustic study, et cetera, which are made a condition to this exception. So in many other jurisdictions that I practice in, they require some sort of approval, right? Mainly so that the prospective tenants knows the rules of engagement, right? When they go get a certificate of use and occupancy. What we would not be in favor of course, is just to require every new tenant requiring a new exception. Although, of course, I'm the only one who enjoys the public hearing process. None of my clients do. So our goal is always to avoid the public hearings. So I think this condition is a good compromise between interests, right? It requires the planning department some assurances that a new tenant would go in and obtain, of course, be knowledgeable of what those conditions are. It also gives the owner the opportunity to take over the space. As you can imagine, that's important, or just to sell the D-Manatee Holdings as an ownership, right, as a corporate entity, so that somebody would buy the business, which I think is what is most commonplace when you're buying a new bar. Either it's the owner or buying the entity itself who owns the licenses. So that's how the condition came to be.
Chair, please note that the net administrator is also here, Ms. Brandis Howard.
Noted.
So, I appreciate that you guys have this sort of seems like to be like a compromise and everyone seems ready to roll along. But there's so many, well, they're not so many. There's a few issues that I think they've come up here before. And they're really important because it's very strange to have this right, and even though it's conditional, to essentially determine whether a certificate of use may be placed upon something because the exception has been adjudicated, let's say, to exist. Or put into being, and sort of creating the underlying condition that would allow the placement of a certificate of use, but then make that exception removable at the whim of any future board or this board as it exists now if something drastic changes with ownership of the company or the real estate. And so I think there's a legality issue with that idea. And I just think functionally, we know now that the world can change, like literally, just like that. And all sorts of strange things happen and deals come up and things happen. And we know how long it takes to get in front of a commission. We know that, or a board, we know how long or how, difficult it might be to sort of preserve all that work that had gone into having us vote whether this use, it's not the owner, whether this use works here. And so I just think that I appreciate the negotiation aspect of it. You want to get your client over the finish line, but I think the longer term effect of us continuing to include or allow the staff to come up with these conditions versus enforcement on a CU that's a problematic CU, which has all the power and there are systems and due process for a certificate of use holder along the way, that this is a real, I just could never ever. And the other thing is that there's no consistency from the city on this and staff. So I just, they know how I feel. I've expressed this at many meetings. I'm expressing it again, and I would never support this condition included. I think, the city has enforcement measures on bad actors. Zoning rights shouldn't be based on who, anything about the person or the company or the operator. This is about what the underlying exception to change the actual zoning, what can be there or add to it can be. This isn't a certificate of use hearing. So on that basis, I could never support this particular condition. Everything else sounds amazing. And I would hate to think that this would hold it up, but it's also, I'm a stickler for this one. So I'm sure some of you can appreciate that. I would also like to add that to prevent this from being an issue ever again in the future, we need to lay this to rest. And I would ask that the city attorney's office finally address whether these conditions are legal and lay out the groundwork for I understand what the aims are of staff. I'm not saying that those aren't reasonable. I'm just saying that there have to be other more legally sound, constitutionally sound in terms of due process, all these kinds of things. Or there have to be other ways of achieving this goal if there's an issue with a prior operator. Because again, what if your new operator, your new owner is spectacular and the prior owner wasn't? Not to say, I think Mr. Resser's probably going to do an amazing job, but that's all. I feel very strongly about this. Thank you.
I should mention that this condition, we've dealt with it for schools, pretty much all the warrants, exceptions. This condition continues to come up and does take a lot of our law firm's time in negotiating this condition for every application. So we welcome the planning board's, some direction to staff.
Yeah. It makes it, I'm sorry, I just want to just clarify. It makes it impossible to sell something. You have no certainty because you can't, let's say right now under COVID, and there are many businesses in this circumstance, you have a property with an exception on it and you want to sell it tomorrow because you have a willing buyer with cash ready to go. But maybe they just did a 1031 exchange and they're running out of time. They have like 5 days left, 10 days left. They're like, we want your property, we want the exception, we even have a tenant plan, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, well, we got to go in front of a board. And we're not really sure if that board's even going to allow you to continue to allow this exception, which is supposed to run with the land, essentially, continue. That is not the function that should not be what this is about. That's about prior enforcement on the bad actor, if there was one, not punishing future buyers or possibly owner seller who wasn't the bad operator, who's just now stuck with this property with no certainty when it can happen. So that's like a very real world example. And that could be, for a school, for anybody who's got an exception like that. It's about what wasn't enforced prior, and that shouldn't be a condition that punishes the seller or future purchaser. So again, I just want to reiterate as well that this needs to be like an actual, legal analysis by the city, so that this is laid out and analyzed, and that we are not, that all of us end up going into this with very, very clear conditions. Thanks.
Mr. Ziegler, did you have your hand up? No? Let me go to Mr. Parrish then. I can't hear you, Mr. Parrish, nor can I hear Mr. Ziegler. I don't know if anyone was speaking.
So, sorry. So this is for Mr. Gersten. So I can certainly see your point if the situation arose where you had a bad actor and they're selling want to sell the property to assuming a very good actor. But how about, let's take the opposite. How about if we had a bad actor and all of a sudden somehow it comes out that they want to sell it to a worse actor? Some Venezuelan holding company that's been stealing money from the government. Then we would want to come back before the board before the planning board to have this use reviewed. So it could work, could both ways, could it not? I'd like to hear what you think about that.
Not really. I mean, because we can't just say, well, for example, we've had situations where you might have someone, whatever, has a certain track record or whatnot. We can say that we don't like that, but based on their actual, like, they haven't operated the place yet. We're not in the Minority Report business of pre-crimes. You understand? So, like, that's not what we do. This is a determination of, like, I only say this, like, it's the closest thing I could think of off the top of my head, but in a sense, the way that underlying land use then allows a certain zoning on top. This isn't that. There's let's say it's T4O, which allows X by exception. Great. Now that's something underneath the land. And then we're saying now we're adding this exception to that T4O to then allow that use above the land. And then someone goes and applies for a certificate of use. Now, what I think there are administrative things that happen in the city that change from administration to administration or administrator to administrator that will keep Mrs. Tabanez in business. But in terms of the basic framework of zoning, I think that we need to be able to rely on certain things traveling with the land. And then if there are certain certificate of use requirements, for example, let's say the city administrator says, I don't care, it's not in the code, and I don't know if this is legal, but I'm just throwing an example, or maybe it becomes code, because I'm sure it'd be very popular. We need you to, when you apply for a certificate of use, you have to promise that you haven't taken money from a communist government, or what, I don't know, whatever your, example you gave with it. I guess they could work on that, but that's not typically what we would do. You know what I mean? And I just think that that's the place for admin. And I think it's a place for enforcement along the way. But I mean, you're right. But you also never know. I mean, we could approve a building and someone builds the building and the crane falls, and then they build the building and the building falls and they were a crappy builder. We can't control the future like that. And also I think that it perpetuates an idea that more operators are bad. And now I'm speaking industry specific, but that is not my bone to pick with this idea. This is more procedural, constitutional, blah, blah, blah. But, I think that, it just perpetuates the idea that somehow all of these things are like dens of sin where everyone's screwing up and ruining neighborhoods, when literally it's the lifeblood.
We've just seen it both ways. We've seen the good ones, the bad ones, and some we wish we'd been able to terminate and say, why should this continue?
Sure.
And others we'd say, oh, thank God, we've got a new owner. It's going to be great.
Yeah. No, I don't.
It goes both ways.
I don't disagree in terms of it going both ways in terms of how it turns out. But I'm just saying in terms of our role specifically and the role of the city placing these conditions. So to answer your question, that's all. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Parrish, can I ask
I have
you
a question. If there was a new operator,
Mr. Collins, hold
I
on
have a
one
question. If they did transfer this to a new owner,
Mr. Collins, hold on 1 second. Mr. Parrish, are you done?
I'm done. Yeah.
Mr.
That was
Collins,
very thorough.
if there was a new tenant or new owner of this brewery and they did not operate in accordance with the law, whether it's the noise or underage drinking, etc., there's other mechanisms in place, correct me if I'm wrong, city staff, that either their license can be revoked or other measures that would cause them to have to close. Isn't that accurate? The question for the city attorney.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the actual question?
If there was a new brewery or new tenant in the future, isn't there other mechanisms in place that could cause them to have to close, such as a violation of the noise ordinance or underage drinking, etc.? Isn't that correct, that there's other mechanisms in place?
For them to close, obviously whether it's the current tenant or a new tenant, they all have to comply with our city code. so the noise ordinance, and any other conditions of this exception. So if there's a violation of a different condition, this board has the authority to rescind that exception. If there's a violation of our city code, that would be processed through code enforcement. So regardless of the owner.
I just feel like 5 years from now, if they wanted to sell this and move on with someone else, how would we know whether or not they would be a good tenant or not? You don't know until you let them operate. So I feel like it's kind of a moot point and just asking just a further encumbrance on a potential new tenant. And I think there's other mechanisms in place to correct establishments that are not running in accordance with the law or a good tenant. So.
Right, and that would be up to this board. As Mr. Gersten requested, I can look into the legality of it. On its face, I don't see an issue. It's a common condition that we include in these types of approvals, but we can do further research into that. And then, this is a recommended condition by city staff, and this board has the ultimate approval and say regarding the approval and any conditions. So if the board thinks it's not necessary, that it's overly burdensome, then, there can be a motion to approve without that condition.
I'd like to make a motion to approve PZAB 2, removing condition 11.
I would second that.
If I could, I just had one question for the, if I could. You mentioned that the outside was historically designated. So the interior features of the lobby are not protected by any historical review, right? Is that correct?
So if I may, the Alfred DuPont building is historically designated the exterior. This proposed interior build out does not impact the lobby and those areas. It's just an interior renovation. But yes, to answer your question, it's the exterior of the building that is protected.
Not the interior.
Not the interior, correct.
Right.
The new construction, as Mr. Reese pointed out, is nestled on top of the annex building, which connects the parking garage to the Alfred DuPont building, and neither the annex nor the parking garage are designated historic. And the historic preservation officer from the city and his staff did review this application.
Right. Thank you. So I'll go back. There was a motion by Mr. Collins, Mr. Parrish.
Oh, I seconded Collins, but I don't know if that was.
I just have a question for Ms. Ketterer. And my question is, this is downtown Flagler, and it's a special district, and I think Mr. Gersten made some very good arguments. My question is, what would the precedent be if we do waive this condition for the next applicant who may be in a completely different, more less intense neighborhood, maybe much more residential? What would be the precedential value? Would we be bound by this decision in coming cases forward?
No. So each application goes through its own review process, and obviously, if it's a different location, different size, etc., that can all come into play in the different conditions, and it may be appropriate for another application and not this one.
That condition, okay.
Bound by this decision. I would also like to add that this is typically this board approves exceptions that are appealable to City Commission. The nature of this exception requires City Commission approval. So this is just a recommendation. So it will go to City Commission as a recommendation to, if this motion passes, as a recommendation to approve without condition number 11. And this also requires a supermajority vote, which I believe there are 9 present, so that would be 7 members.
Mr. Ziegler, were you trying to get in?
Yes, I didn't necessarily want to get in this issue. I mean, Mr. Gersten made a good point, but the whole idea when this came up, or if you remember, when we had a big issue there on 36th Street over there in the club, and the person sold it, and they kept getting it because the exception was there. It was an issue about the transfer and the ownership, and
well,
I can see it both ways. But at the end of the day, this is an exception, or you can call it a privilege, so to speak. And the city should always be able to control that at some point. I mean, you get people, the owner wants to take it over, they take it over. But they sold it to someone else, they should be say, hey, listen, if we're going to approve this exception or not. I mean, it's not like, you know, we're taking some rights away from them, so to speak. They have their rights. The petitioner, the applicant is if we approve this, is going to have their rights. Now they want to sell it or sell that exception along with someone else. Again, since it is an exception, that's the sort of, the city has a right to say yes or no. I don't think.
No, I think that's my point. Is that we. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Just finish one other thing, and if, like Amber said, if you're going to take this exception away from them, then it's going to take it away from everybody. Then why add that exception on any other application? Because it doesn't make any sense to me. You know, if you're going to be fair, you know, as a board or as a city, if you're going to be fair, if the exception is taken away from here, then the exception doesn't exist anymore. Because I don't see a point for it.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean,
we have a motion in a
regardless
second.
if you put it in there. If you're going to do it for this person, why not?
I just want to clarify because that wasn't entirely. Well, whatever.
No, I'm not. I don't think we need to go back.
Okay. Okay.
Pretty good view on this. We have a motion and a second for approval. Sans that item or condition is 11. And I think
every vote counts. Every vote counts. A supermajority is required. So please.
So that means that we have 9 members, and a supermajority is how many?
6. Amber, it's 6, correct?
7.
7?
It's 7.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on. How many members?
9.
There are 9. So 5 would be a majority. So it's 6. I apologize.
Yeah. And that was why I just wanted to be clear because I didn't want to, you know.
So if there's an issue with the condition, I would please ask for another motion. Just putting it out there.
The motion was made by Member Collins and the second by Member Gersten, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
And this is motion to approve as amended with removing condition number 11.
Yes.
Member Collins?
Yes.
Member Gersten?
Yes.
Member Altabe?
Yes. Yes.
Member Dominguez?
Yes.
Member Parrish?
Yes.
Member Ziegler?
No.
Member Persoff? Can you turn your mic on, please?
Yes.
Vice Chair Torrance?
Yes.
Chair Galvalia?
Yes.
Motion passes 8-1.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all very much.
Next item, please.
File ID, this is PZAB item 4, file ID 7763. A resolution of the City of Miami Planning, Zoning, and Appeals Board recommending approval or denial of an ordinance of the Miami City Commission of an ordinance amending ordinance number 13114, the zoning ordinance of the City of Miami, Florida, as amended by amending Article 1, Section 1.2, titled Definitions of Terms, Article 7, Section 7.1.7.3, titled Approval, Section 7.1.7.4, titled Release, and Section 7.1.1.6, titled Covenant in lieu of Unity of Title, to require approval by building officials for and release of a unity of title covenant in lieu of unity of title, and other restricted covenants in addition to approval by the zoning administrator, impose an additional submission requirements for unities of title and covenants in lieu of unity of title relating to surveys and legal description sketches, a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. City?
Good evening, Chair, members of the board. Joe Ruiz, Zoning Administrator, Office of Zoning. The proposed legislation before you, as Erica mentioned, amends Article 7 of the Miami 21 Code, specifically Section 7.1.7 entitled Unity of Title. In short, the proposed legislation does three things. One, it codifies administrative procedures that are presently in place. Two, it creates a release review committee comprised of the zoning administrator, the building official, and the directors of Resilience and Public Works, Planning Department, and Co-Compliance. And they're to review any applications for a modification, amendment, or release to any unities of title, covenants in lieu, or other covenants to determine whether such a modification, amendment, or release would cause a violation of the zoning code, our regular code of ordinances, the Florida Building Code, as well as whether it would be contrary to the purpose for which the covenant was originally executed. Lastly, the proposed amendment will also expedite the review process as it requires the release review committee to convene within 30 days after receiving a complete application. So I'll keep my comments short. And with that being said, I'm available for any questions you may have.
Thank you. Are there any members of the public at City Hall? All right, no members. I will take it back and close out the public portion for this item and bring it to the board. Mr. Gershon, I see your hand waving.
Yes, I'm a waving. So, hello, Mr. Ruiz. How you doing?
Good evening, sir. How are you?
Good, good. What's the purpose of this?
It's to provide additional oversight with respect to releases and modifications. So as of right now, the way the code is written, the authority for the most part, for any modification, amendment, or release, unless it's otherwise stated in the covenant, solely rests with the zoning administrator. So what this does is it just gives a second set of eyes to other disciplines within the city to make sure that there are no unintended consequences with any modification, amendment, or release.
Okay. Short circuiting this question, does it make things move slower or faster?
That's why I highlighted the point where that upon receiving an application, this committee is supposed to convene within 30 days. Ideally, this process would be quicker.
Okay, so when you say the committee convenes, that means that ideally the committee convenes to as like on bank, sit together, review each application, yes or no, move along, instead of one person reviews, goes to another person, may sit on that desk for too long, but then the next one goes fast. So this is like, you know that it's going to convene within 30 days. Everyone's going to look at it, and you get an answer, yes or no.
Exactly.
So this is an efficiency move?
Yes, and it's an efficiency move in addition to building in additional protections for the city.
Okay, if I guess the thing is, I can see like in a real world situation, everyone says this is amazing, great work, Joe Ruiz, for putting in something that makes things move more efficiently. But then building says we hate this. New roadblock. So would it be possible to do you see a situation where you say 30 days review and because I mean usually these covenants, they often come up on a transfer, on whatever, it's always like a time sensitive thing, and it's the holdup can cost money or a deal. So would you see a situation where you might be able to get this to like a 30 and a 30 where it's like we've identified this problem. It's not a nebulous thing. We're not like, let's wait and see. We say, okay, building has an issue. This is the issue, and it can be rectified by such and such, and we'll review again within the next 30 days. Do you see that being an issue?
No, well, there's a standard in which the different disciplines are to review. So the standard for the building would be whether the modification, amendment, or release would cause a violation of the building code. So in that case, they would recommend a denial because obviously we cannot create a violation. So, in that particular fact pattern, they would have to cure whatever the potential violation may be prior to moving forward with a modification, amendment, or release.
Okay. So basically, anyone could continually, if they felt they had done the work that was set out for them to do, that would satisfy all disciplines, they could come back within that next 30-day period and say, we want to be heard again.
Of course. If not even before, 30 days is the maximum.
Okay. Okay. So do you anticipate the possibility that this board meets twice a month, or this review committee or whatever?
It could, depending on the volume. I've obviously been in this position now a little less than 2 years, and I could probably count on two hands the number of modifications, amendments, or releases that have come across my desk.
Okay. Thanks.
Mr. Parrish.
I don't want to step on any toes, but in a neighborhood residential setting, a lot of time, well, sometimes, at least I'm aware of one or two, and you are too, the desire is to take a building site for residential that has been combined in a unity of title, and then by dissolving the unity of title, that then they can build two structures where previously there was one. And that if all of the other parts of the zoning code are met, that should be appropriate. Size, setback, all that. But at least, and I'm sure you're very well aware of what happened on Day Avenue, where there was a release of a unity of title, and then two non-conforming structures, grievously non-conforming structures, were built and went all the way through. In fact, they're standing there now. There may still be litigation going on, I don't know. But I know the structures are there, and that was precipitated by the release of, if I'm correct, of a unity of title, and then that led to further mistakes on the part of the city that allow these two violations, grievous violations of the code to exist. So what public input is there? Just like any change in zoning, it seems like in a residential neighborhood in particular, the neighbors who are used to their block, their neighbors, should have some notice that this unity of title is going to be dissolved inevitably in order to increase the density. So I'd like your comments on that, and what safeguards there would be for neighbors in a neighborhood to have some input before a long-standing condition like a unity of title is dissolved.
So the situation you brought up with respect to Day Avenue, the legislation that is here before you today is specifically to address situations like that, to ensure the city never sees another situation like that again. Typically a unity of title will be needed for building purposes when people are going to be building across lot lines. So it's unified for development purposes. So if someone is coming in and asking for a release, the release would not be granted if there's a structure that is straddling the lot lines, or the release would not provide for a building that is compliant with the zoning code. Otherwise, if it would be, it would just be going back to the underlying platted lots that were already provided for within the neighborhood. So I appreciate and understand your concern with respect to notice to the neighbors, and that's something we can consider. But again, a release would just be reverting back to whatever the legally platted lots were originally.
So would you be amenable then to an amendment to what you're proposing that says that there must be, and certainly in T3 neighborhoods, that there must be notice within 500 feet to the neighbors?
Me personally, I would not be, for the reasons that I stated for the purposes of this legislation. This legislation builds in protections to ensure that we don't have another Day Avenue situation. But to Member Gerson's point, it's supposed to also build in efficiencies in terms of being able to review and make a determination on an application quickly. And I believe that that would potentially delay the process.
Yeah, it's a hard one. I can see and normally I completely support any streamlining of the process, but there were so many failures on that Day Avenue that if it speeds up the process, I'm very inclined to slow down the process, at least until we're see where that litigation goes. This is a really hard one. I mean, I really applaud you for thinking so clearly about what needs to be done to speed the building process, which you get thousands of complaints about how long the process takes. But I still think neighbors need to have an opportunity to be heard until such time as there's more confidence that another Day Avenue won't happen.
Understood.
That's all I have to say.
And yeah, and again, the whole point of the review committee is to allow for multiple disciplines to have sets of eyes on the release or modification application, so we don't find ourselves in a similar situation, whether it be a violation of the zoning code, whether it be a violation of the building code, the fire code, or even the underlying, the underlying conditions that triggered the necessity for the covenant to begin with. So multiple sets of eyes, multiple disciplines, and a thorough review process.
Vice Chair?
Thank you. I like the expediency. I think it's a great idea, and the extra review and timelines. But I have to agree with Mr. Parrish that at some point you do have to consider the citizens. We've had a real rough time. Multiple times we've had a rough time with this particular issue. And I think sometimes we just have to allow for the public. It's important.
Mr. Gersten?
Yeah, I think about those situations as well, and I know that I think what I hear though, and I don't know, I don't know if I'm getting it right, but I sort of hear that one of the side benefits of putting everyone in a room at the same time is, and I think to Mr. Parrish and Vice Chair Torrens's point, independent review happening on its own, when time starts to drag and something sits on someone's desk. Independent observation in my life in this city says that sometimes it's a good thing, but a lot of times it's not a good thing. Someone's looking for a way, there's creativity where there doesn't or shouldn't be. So, to that point, maybe, another side benefit to putting everyone in the room to review these is that there is this higher bar of review that requires expediency, transparency, and more of a intellectual straightforwardness that less creativity sometimes, and maybe a little more just like, this is how we review this is what we do, this is what I have to say, because everyone's going to have to stand up for their decision in that group environment. So I for the same reason there's concern, I could see how this is already a great improvement in terms of people hashing out these details in a more group setting. And I think it's a way more safe, neighborhood friendly way of approaching this. Less stuff gets pulled off. And less stuff gets pulled off.
My daughter, she's inside. I've already been inside.
Would you like to make a motion, Mr. Gersten?
Yeah, I like it. It's a great move in the direction. So I would make a motion to approve. I think it's an improvement already on where we're at, and does speak to Mr. Parrish and Ms. Torrens.
My daughter's inside.
Can we have a little more discussion?
She's getting her
please,
COVID
Mr. Chair?
exam. I was just inside a minute ago with the doctor. Or so.
Can we have a little more discussion before we move the motion, Mr. Chair?
Go ahead, Mr. Parrish, you had a comment?
My additional comment, like I say, I see both sides of it, and but when it's your neighborhood and it's your street and it's the house next to you or the house across the street, and there's a change happening to it, transparency means that if you don't like it, you can have some say so. And I don't know in what Mr. Ruiz is saying with all the administrators getting together and all the people in the city staff getting together, that them sitting down, even though it would be a great improvement, certainly over what happened with Day Avenue, to what I understand might have happened with Day Avenue. I just, in my heart, I just say, if it's happening to the house next to me, I'd at least like to have notice, and I'd like to be able to say, you know what, let me look into this further and see what's going to happen next. And I maybe even have a chair in the room when all these administrators get together. I know that is cumbersome and burdensome on the staff in the city, but neighbors deserve to have a voice. It's their neighborhood, it's their street, it's their next door house. And when change happens, it can be for the good, but the first reaction usually is, oh my God, what's going to happen next to my street, my neighbor? And that's why I'm so strong on supporting neighborhood input.
Mr. Ziegler?
No, I was going to ask Mr. Ruiz, it could be like an exception and just exclude T3 from this review, or possible.
Yeah, I'd support that.
But then do they not? Then you're saying you want it to go back to the
Right.
Yeah,
I would say T3 is where this would be the most important in terms of a review.
Exactly.
So you don't find yourself in a similar situation to Day Avenue.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying, and that's what his concern is. Some, like I said, I applaud the idea. There's no doubt about it. But it's like he's saying, something happens in your neighborhood. You know, the city has made their decision, even if it's the right of the applicant. But again, what happened on Day Avenue, they still had no choice. So it's almost, no, it's faster. They're still not going to have a choice, which is what I can see what Mr. Parrish said. At the end of the day, if someone wants to do something, if they, you know, to basically with the title, the unity of title, they basically still have no choice. And even a proposal, I think it's better. It still doesn't give the neighborhoods no choice. So that's what I think, in my opinion. I mean, I could be wrong, Mr. Parrish. That's what I'm saying. You're saying the neighborhood should have, or the neighbor should have a choice in what.
Just notice. They probably say that's great, but
right. I mean,
go ahead.
Right. No, I was going to say. I mean, the other issue with this specifically in T3 is if we're talking about splitting 10,000 square foot lots into two 5,000s and all that sort of stuff. You know, I mean, considering that we also, okay, this is a little bit of I mean, the fact that we're talking about separating out T3R is complicated already. I think that, but my opinion is moving forward with Mr. Ruiz's thing, and then us as a board at a next meeting or even at this meeting asking Mr. Ruiz to then come back to us next meeting or 2 meetings later with something that he thinks might help those situations in residential is great. Moving forward with this now is a blanket improvement, right? We've all basically said it. Even those who are kind of skeptical have said, yes, this is already an improvement, but we want more for those situations.
So are you saying to defer this? Is that what you're
No. What I'm saying is that this is already an improvement. The next question is more complicated because it singles out this particular transect, this particular type of zoning. And I would caution us all to consider the request to add extra eyes to these large lot splits where there was a unity and someone wants to, or a covenant and someone wants to undo a covenant, that we also sit here in these meetings. Yes, we talk about neighborhood preservation, but we also talk about affordable housing and we talk about density and we talk about these things and, you know, issues of socioeconomic stuff, of race, of class. And now you're saying, okay, and you're using very specifically situations where in very areas that were predominantly white and zoned, particularly for that reason, having large lots to exclude people that didn't have money. You're saying, well, we don't want to split them still because we want to preserve our neighborhood. And what you're also in some ways saying is we want to preserve our way of life back to 1950 whatever or 1920 whatever. So
But that's not what we're saying.
no, I'm not
what
saying
we're saying
you're
is
I'm
they
not
should have,
saying you're I'm not
whoever it
saying
is
you're-
should have a voice in saying, this is what I think. Whether they say, I don't want any, because I like everything to stay 20,000 square feet, lots in my neighborhood, and I don't care what the owner wants. No, that's not what we're saying. What we're saying is that the neighbors in the neighborhood within 500 feet should have a voice. Whether their voice is listened to or not, at least they have a say-so.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I think that isn't a bad idea. I just think that like that's a separate. This is like this is their admin side. You're talking about creating a hearing process essentially that doesn't exist. And that's
if there's opposition.
I know.
If there's opposition, yes.
I know that you know so much about this stuff that you know that is a much higher bar and heavier lift to create an ordinance or to create a new process.
If there's neighborhood resistance, yes.
Which I don't even think is a bad idea. What I'm saying is that they're talking about, I'm just saying that their administrative review process right now is already disjointed, inefficient, and potentially leads to bad result. Joe Ruiz is proposing this idea that moves things way into the right direction with a consistent meeting process with a large group of administrators on an administrative process that currently is administrative. I believe that if there's something in front of us today that administratively makes more efficient the administrative process, we are obligated, if we want to do the right thing, to make it better. We are also obligated as a board to also say, Mr. Ruiz, please develop a system whereby there may be a new hearing process for T3R, T3R, or T4R, whatever, to be able to let the neighbors come and look at these covenant and unity splits, because they do impact the character of the neighborhood, and we need that, and that's our job. Also, we're allowed to do that. I'm just saying, you got an administrator who's like, I have this administrative process that sucks, and I want to make it better right now with this. This is the answer. I've looked at it, and this is how we can get everyone on the same page. Why would we defer it? Because you're literally talking about a whole separate process, which is a good idea, but it's not for this is the best we can do with this system. To create another system requires another hearing with a whole other system, and city attorney has to weigh in. You know what I'm saying. I'm agreeing with you, but I'm saying this is the best improvement for this administrative side. Then you could have a hearing side, because you're talking about a public meeting. If you start bringing in the public, you're talking about a sunshine meeting. It's you need a whole different regime, and everyone needs to weigh in and create a whole other ordinance.
All right, Mr. Gersten, I think you were doing a motion.
Yes, I'm sorry. I made a motion to approve.
Do we have a second? I hear no second. Does someone want to second it?
I have discussion.
All right, let's see if we get a second. So there's no second, so we'll.
To approve?
Yes, this is a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a second by Mr. Korshoff. Vice Chair, did you have a comment?
I do have a comment. I think for us to move forward on this vote and in favor of it is a disservice. We need to step back, and we have meeting processes. You're not inventing the wheel to add a meeting process to this, a notice and a meeting process behind this idea. It's a great idea. Expediency is great, but let's do it all at once. Let's bring it together and have something really good, so that the city and the citizens of the city, the administration and the citizens of our city, all feel represented in the process.
I'm sorry.
Oh, hold on.
Mr. Chair, when you get a chance, I
think we're in the middle of the motion. So as a courtesy, I allowed the Vice Chair to step in after a motion had been made and seconded. So let's call the roll.
Member Gersten?
Yes.
Member Parsoff? Can you come off, unmute yourself?
Yes.
Member Altabe?
No.
Member Collins?
Yes.
Member Dominguez?
No.
Member Parrish,
No.
Member Ziegler,
No.
Vice Chair Torrance,
No.
Chair Gavalia.
Yes.
Motion failed 4-5.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, Mr. Gersten.
I just, this one is another one that, wow, I just have to say, what we're saying is now on every covenant that what needs to be undone in the entire city in commercial process and any of these things, basically on the exact same issue, we're now going to say that every time that has to happen, it's coming in front of a board and a hearing process nothing would happen. Because there are so many times where someone has two lots and they just want to separate, there's an empty lot and a building on the lot and they want to sell off the lot.
The motion, the item's done. You want to make a request to create a discussion item for a future meeting? But
Yes, I that's what I'd like to do. I'd like to have Mr. Ruiz come back here again at the next meeting or the following meeting and lay out exactly what his, I want to do this, another presentation and explain how these two things could be together or separate and respond to, I think, the very valid concerns that Vice Chair Torrance has and Mr. Parrish, but why they might be separate or together in this.
You got that, Mr. Ruiz? Make sure you get that on the next agenda where you feel comfortable with it in a reasonable amount of time.
Yes, sir. And thank you all for your feedback.
Will this be the October 7th agenda? Or the September 16th agenda?
Sooner the better.
The meeting in September, the next one you can get me on is fine. I've heard the feedback loud and clear, and I think we can propose some changes.
All right, you'll work back with hearing boards to get it as a discussion item.
Sure.
All right, next item.
The next item is the master calendar.
No, that's not the next item.
You have something next?
I have a birthday wishes to Erica. I believe it's Erica's birthday today.
Oh, happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Erica.
Happy birthday, Erica.
Oh,
Hey.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
If these weren't pandemic times, we'd have a cake for you.
That's right.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
A candle to blow out or anything? A balloon or anything to wave?
Throw a pen at someone's head.
Well, congratulations. Many, many more. Thank you.
Erica's a birthday girl.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, there you go. There's your birthday cake.
Very good. All right, now you can proceed to the next item. Or if you want, you can go home.
All right, thank you.
Go home. We can adjourn the meeting on your as your birthday.
I would appreciate that, but I know better. So the next item is PZAB 5, file ID 7794, resolution of the City of Miami Planning, Zoning, and Appeals Board approving the Planning, Zoning, and Appeals Board meeting dates for the 2021 calendar year. A draft was attached to the agenda.
I know in the past we had always had some religious holiday conflicts on there. I don't know if anyone's been able to put that.
I totally went through the whole calendar. It looks good to me.
All right, good. Motion to approve by the vice chair.
Yes.
Second by Mr. Parrish.
For sure.
All those in favor say aye.
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 So that's unanimous? No, there are no no's.
No.
The next item is a discussion item. Discussion 1, file ID 7624. Discussion alley closures, remuneration to the city for vacation enclosures.
Is someone from city going to talk to us about it?
Yes.
Yes, I am. Good evening, everyone. If you give me 1 second so I can share my screen. Let me know when you can see my presentation.
Not yet.
Not yet? Let's try that again.
Okay, we got it.
All right, great. Thank you. Okay, good evening, Chair, Vice Chair, and board members. My name is Juan Santana. Thank you for letting me be here this evening with you and have a discussion on the right-of-way closure, vacation, and closure procedure. My name is Juan Santana. I am the Deputy Director with the Department of Resilience and Public Works. So why are we here? So on June 17th, the Planning, Zoning, and Appeals Board requested that we make a presentation on the vacation and closure process. So I'm going to walk you through some of the state statutes and the Miami Code of Ordinances, specifically Chapter 54 and 55, the sections related to vacation and closures and the procedures thereof, and the alternative and alternate methods that we have for alleys and easements, as well as the fees and reimbursements of expended city funds and some examples of some plats that have gone through the city that included these types of closures. So starting with the state statutes, Chapter 177, specifically Section 081 and 085, spells out that when a tract or parcel of land has been subdivided, all streets, alleys, and easements, rights-of-ways, and public areas shall be deemed to have been dedicated to the public, dedicated, not deeded. And that dedication contains a provision that the reversionary interest in the street, roadway, or alley is reserved unto the dedicator or his or her heirs, successors, thereof. And this has been consistent. I took an excerpt from a plat from 1924. And again, that language was in there. The streets, avenues, courts, terraces on the attached plat are hereby dedicated to the perpetual use of the public, reserving to said C.A. Roberts, his heirs or executors and assignees, the reversion of that right-of-way that's been dedicated until whenever discontinued by law. In this case, the local laws that govern this are Chapter 54 and Chapter 55. So starting with Chapter 54, Section 4, it basically says that if you are going to close and vacate any public street or alley, you have to file and go through a platting process in accordance with the laws of the state and the rules and regulations of the Department of Resilience and Public Works. And those are specifically Chapter 55. What you see below is just an excerpt of who has to sign and execute these plats. In this example, you see that a statement is made as far as the corporation, who the sign agent is, and the fact that they executed that plat. So in this case, obviously, it's someone who did not originally subdivide this property, but now had control and legal authority over it. So Chapter 55-15, Section 15, specifically discusses the vacation and closure of a right-of-way, a platted easement, emergency access easements. The vacation and closure can only be done through the platting procedure. This is consistent with the language you just saw in Chapter 54. There is, however, an exception for alleys abutting certain transit zones, T3R, T3L, and T3O. Now, if someone desires to do a vacation enclosure or through a platting process, once they have submitted a application to the city, specifically to the Department of Resilience and Public Works, once the application has been noted that is sufficiently complete, it will be scheduled for the Platte Street Committee meeting to review. That committee is composed of the Residence and Public Works Department, Planning, Building, Zoning, Police, Fire Rescue, and Solid Waste. We also have representatives from other departments to join in on a case-by-case needed. Now, here, when we talk about the technical requirements, we wanted just to highlight some of the technical requirements that we're looking for. Some of them, obviously, is the boundary is in accordance with the tentative plat. They've got to show all existing and proposed easements, whether they be ingress or egress, or both, or utility easements. Any work that's proposed in the public right-of-way needs to be in accordance with the City of Miami Public Works standards. Any new sidewalks have to be compliant with ADA requirements, and any maneuverability needs to be reviewed by the fire department to verify that there are no issues with their ability to operate their apparatus within the proposed subdivision. In addition to those technical requirements, you often hear these famous 4 questions as far as further consideration for vacation enclosure. So you understand it is not what determines the vacation enclosure, but it is further consideration. And these questions are posed during the Platte Street Committee meeting to the applicant as well as the Technical Review Committee. Those 4 questions, to read them quickly to you. Number 1 is it in the public interest or the general public benefit from the vacation of the rights of ways or easements? Is the general public no longer using the right-of-way or easement, including public service vehicles such as trash, garbage trucks, police, fire, emergency vehicles? Many times we hear chiming in as far as from the fire department, the police department, from departments of solid waste, that if these rights-of-ways were to be vacated, how that would impact. And coming back to our previous slide is if a right-of-way is being vacated, the fire department, along with our department, is going to require them to provide access to these sites so that life safety can always be ensured, as well as any connectivity issues through the dedication of ingress easements, the construction of sidewalks, what have you. Number 3 is what I just touched on. And number 4, would the vacation enclosure of the right-of-way or easement have a beneficial effect on pedestrian or vehicular circulation in the area? So once the findings of fact or recommendations are completed by the Platte Street, the only way that it will move forward onto a public hearing process, which the next step is typically an application to hearing boards to be heard in front of you all at the PZAB. If that tentative plat does not comply with the technical requirements, and further action will be withheld until that tentative plat comes into compliance. So if they have not met any of our technical requirements, they will not be approved at Platte Street, and you will not be able to see that. That application will not be allowed to move forward. Once they do comply and they are able to apply for that hearing through hearing boards, the Planning and Zoning Appeal Boards, similar to the Platte Street Committee, will make a recommendation for approval or denial. Once that process is complete with you, it moves forward to City Commission. After the public hearing, any recommendation will then be forwarded. If the City Commission approves the requested vacation enclosure, the subdivider may proceed with finalizing their plat. One thing to keep in mind is that closure and vacation is valid for 4 days upon City Commission approval, and cannot be extended. So I briefly mentioned some alternate methods. One of them that you had in front of you earlier this year is the alternative method for an alley closure in a T3R, a T3L, a T3O, or a transect, a T3 that abuts a more intense. So it could abut a T4. In this case, the PZAB does not render a recommendation, but actually makes the determination. The Planning and Zoning Appeal Board has the authority, or its successors is designated as the decision maker pertaining to the closure and vacation. These of course, are able to go through an appellate process to be appealed to City Commission. The one that was denied earlier this year was not appealed to City Commission, so that alley remains public and open. The alternate method for release of easements, specifically for utility companies, has an administrative process. In case that the requirement for a public hearing to be waived, they must receive recommendation and approval letters from the departments that sit as a technical review committee at Platt and Street. They must receive written and consent release letters from the utility companies, specifically FPNL, TECO, Florida City Gas, and Miami-Dade Water and Sewer. They must also provide an ownership and encumbrance report or an opinion of title, verifying that there are no other encumbrances or any other issues with that alley that easement that is being proposed to be vacated. And that entire package is then submitted to the Public Works Department for review. So fees. So some of the fees that currently exist, and we wanted to go over some of the proposed fees that we currently have in the works as it pertains to the platting process and the vacations of rights of ways. So currently under Chapter 2269, the tentative plat application is $1,800. This was increased 2 years ago from $1,000. It is currently proposed to be increased again. We have done some evaluation of the staff time that it takes on average. And what we've realized is that those applications that involve the closures and vacations of rights of ways take quite a bit more time. So we have one straight fee for any tentative plat application. We currently have an ordinance proposed, first reading passed at the second meeting in July. We have second reading scheduled for the September 24th meeting. So right now, if someone were to come in for a vacation and closure application, they would be paying $1,800. If they were to come in, and obviously after second reading and hopefully it passes, we have a 30-day effective date. So any application received theoretically after November or late October would now be paying $5,000 for a tentative plat application that includes a right-of-way or easement vacation. The final plat application for those types of processes are also going up. Currently, they are $2,500 and they are proposed to be increased to $3,700. There is also a fee under Chapter 2269 with regards to the alternate method for the vacations of alleys. Currently, it's $525 and it is proposed to be increased to $2,000. In addition to, in Chapter 62, as part of hearing boards, there is also a cost associated with the vacation of public right-of-way. It's a $2 per square foot cost with a minimum of $3,000. And should that application have to come back for a resubmittal, there's a maximum cost associated with that of $4,000. In addition, about a couple years ago, there was an amendment to Chapter 5515 that dealt with the reimbursement of city fund expenditures. So if an applicant is coming in and proposing to close a public right-of-way and they have received their approvals from Platt and Street, they're going through the process of PZAB and eventually commission, they are required to seek a confirmation from the Departments of Resilience and Public Works and the Office of Capital Improvements. Now, if funding for the project is found to have occurred within the previous 50 years and it was paid by general funds, the applicant will be required to pay their prorated portion. If it was paid with restricted funds, i.e. bond funds, grant funds, or otherwise, there is no time limitation. We will be required to identify those projects and work with the Office of Management and Budget and Finance, and through the manager's office, provide a cost to the subdivider that they must repay to the city, and no application for public hearing shall be scheduled for city commission consideration without confirmation, and if applicable, the total expenditure received by the city. Now, into what some of these closures end up looking like, I wanted to just show some examples of where some closures have occurred, and the city still reserved some rights in order to address and sometimes improve pedestrian and vehicular. In this case, this is the Miami World Center plat number 1. It closed Northeast 7th Street, Northeast 8th Street, and Northeast 9th Street between Northeast 2nd Avenue and 1st Avenue. However, Northeast 8th Street today remains, and if you drive through it, it looks like a public open street. It is a vehicular and pedestrian ingress and egress easement. And Northeast 10th Street was converted from a one-way condition to two-way, along with new signals, new ADA ramps, and obviously all the new infrastructure that went along with it. All of those costs were borne by the developer. Another example is the Ilana plat. The Paraíso development currently sits in that area. As part of this application, Northeast 31st Street was vacated. However, part of that requirements from the city were that Northeast 7th Avenue needed to be extended. And as you can see in the aerial, Northeast 7th Avenue, where it used to terminate at 31st Street, now continues to Northeast 30th Terrace, as well as the creation, though it's not labeled, this is Northeast 6th Avenue. Northeast 6th Avenue did not exist, and Northeast 6th Avenue is now connected to Northeast 31st Street. This portion, while vacated, was reserved for an easement for emergency vehicles, for public and vehicular and pedestrian access. So for all intents and purposes, this still very much functions as a roadway. And obviously we used to have a dead-end condition here at 31st Street. That dead-end condition went away, and we now have traffic circulating through 32nd Street. Here is an example of basically an abandoned right-of-way. I'll guide you over to this. This is what used to be Northwest 18th Street, all the way here through 7th Avenue. You can see a picture of what used to be some pavement. There's even an orphan stop sign there, but obviously this no longer functioned as a public right-of-way. The University of Miami owned this property. They did away with that orphan portion of 18th Street since it had been already vacated by ordinance in 1926, as a matter of fact. And they now have a unified site. This is an example of an alley vacation enclosure. This alley used to connect from North Miami Avenue to Northeast 1st Avenue. When it came in for replatting and the alley vacation, an easement, a three-dimensional easement was required that now allows traffic that comes in through North Miami Avenue to exit along to Northeast 41st Street. This is an example of a recent plat. This is the Versailles plat. I did multiple things as far as their cleanup, but specific to our conversation today, this closed and vacated 2 utility easements. And as you can see, this is what the site looks like today. And just a little excerpt of the plat that created the 10-foot easement. This was from 1971. A strip of land 10 feet wide as shown by dashed lines on the attached plat is hereby reserved for the installation and maintenance of public utilities. Now, in this case, that easement is reserved within private property. So once it's extinguished, it is automatically bound by the existing property lines. And that now has all gone away. And now we have 2 tracts of land that are pretty similar in size. And that wraps up my presentation. Any questions?
Anyone have any comments?
Why am I not there? Hello? Hello?
Thank you for your presentation.
Wait, where's Aaron? Aaron was the one who brought this up.
Oh,
Aaron, where are you?
I'm trying to get on. You hear me?
He's in the clouds there, it
We
looks like.
hear you, but we can't.
I
see
know.
you.
I don't know what I did.
We
Well,
can hear you.
You hear me?
We
Yes.
can hear you, sir, if you want to go ahead with your questions.
Okay. Well, my question. Well, let me just lay out what my objection was as far as not about your presentation, but in alleyways in general. I'll give you a particular case we're referring to. It's on the it's at 31st Street between Biscayne Boulevard and 2nd Avenue. It's between 30th and 31st Street, where Crescent Heights has it's 31st Street and between Biscayne and
That came before you in June, I believe, the private alleys.
right, exactly. And I was saying to them, I have no objection as far as what the project they want to do. You know, my issue is not what exactly what the project is. I'm saying that those alleyways, they'll, basically have some value. And I was just looking at here on your presentation there, you put when you vacate the alley that $2 a square foot. I'm assuming as far as the cost when it's all said and done.
That is the cost for the process to be heard in front of PZAB.
Okay, that's the cost to be heard. Now, as far as the idea of me saying that those alleys have some value to the city, or as a trustee, or as the owner, that's my point.
But there has to be a clear distinction made that we are not the owner. We hold it in trust, and in that case, those were private. So those had specific restrictions that were for the use of the exclusive use of the abutting property owners.
Okay, well, let's put it this way. So if the city retained that right, now what? No, I'm only saying this to you. I'm just saying that the value that alleyway has a value. That's what I'm saying as far as the city. And it seems like though they have the right to to vacate the alley, there doesn't seem to see any reciprocal value to the city. I mean, you're making the property worth millions of dollars more, but the city is getting no benefit out of it.
Well, I wouldn't necessarily agree that the city is not getting any value of it. I showed a few examples, and I imagine this would be along the same lines that once they're coming in through the platting process, this is not looked at in an isolated fashion that they're just closing the alley. They have to go through a platting process for that to become effective, and they have to record that plat. Those alleys are not extinguished, closed, or vacated until that plat gets finalized and recorded. In order for them to get to that point, there are other conditions that they must meet. One of them being is that they must provide subdivision improvements. What that in general terms mean is, from a residence and public works standpoint, is that we're going to look at all the infrastructure in the public right of way. So they're going to be required to put in new stormwater infrastructure to meet our current standards, new sidewalks, curb and gutter, pavement, street lighting, landscaping. So that is all going to be required as part of their improvements as part of the platting process. So as far as there not being any sort of value, the city is getting new infrastructure that's going to be required. And if they do not effectuate that, they must bond it and they must fully design those improvements and provide them to the city. So the city is well protected in regards to getting a benefit, whether or not they're vacating a public right of way or an easement or an alley.
Now, just another question on that. As far as, let's just say in that particular project up there, that I think we're vacating 4 alleyways, and the benefit or whatever, as far as infrastructure improvement value would be what? In your estimate, just a quick estimation. I'm not saying you got to be exact. They're vacating 4 alleyways. They got to go. You're talking about 2 blocks.
The number of alleys versus we'd have to measure the linear footage around the block. I'm not in. It's hundreds of thousands of dollars that they're going to have to expend on infrastructure. I can easily say that.
Right. Well, I mean, for me, that's what my problem is. Because the value that basically they're getting by the city vacating these alleyways versus what the return is just paltry, in my opinion. I mean, the city should be getting more. And that's what I want to ask you. Is there any way that, as far as whether increasing the value on the square footage that you get, or in any way that the city can, I want to say extract more, because that sort of seems like a more harsh term, but I'm just saying get better benefits. I mean, you're adding at least $10 to $20 million on this property. Again, that's the property owner's right, but the city should get a better return than a few $100,000.
The city never bought the land. That's what my distinction for me. The city never purchased that land. So for it to revert back to the original owner, I don't understand why the perception that they should have to pay for that as if they're acquiring land in a transaction. I don't get it.
They are acquiring the land. They're acquiring the rights to it.
But
basically.
they're getting back land that they put in trust, that the original owner of that land put in trust previously.
Mr. Santana, is that
Yes.
really the case in the majority of cases that there are a reversionary right that was retained? Or are there alleys that come before you that the city owns outright as with no reversionary interest attached? Or they do almost always have reversionary rights?
I hate to speak in absolutes, but the city, as far as I am aware, we do not hold deed to any public right-of-way, easement, or alley that has gone through any sort of vacation process. Everyone that has gone through us has had a reversionary. And if the language is not explicit in the plat, we fall to the state statute, which says that it reverts back to the original subdivider or their successors. So no, we do not, that is why it's by dedication and not by deed, which is what I pointed out at the beginning of we have no ability, and we function differently than the Department of Transportation at the state level. They do hold deeds for their land. The city of Miami does not for the public right of way.
So if I was to come in and I wanted to close, not an alley, but a street that kind of like the one that UM had, that you said that was closed back in 1926. So I don't own that. I own the two adjoining lots, and yet there is this public street that's dividing my two properties. What would be the process for me to going into the city and saying, I'd like this street closed? It's very rarely used. It's more like an alley than a street. I'd like to close it. And what is it going to cost me to do that?
You would have to you'd have to submit for a tentative plat application. In general terms, you'd have to get a survey drawn up, a tentative plat survey showing the existing boundaries and what is being proposed as far as your proposal of vacating a portion of a public right-of-way. We've had, in the case where you mentioned that you control both sides, but we've had sometimes where we've had multiple owners and they have joined in on the plat and they work together in order to vacate that right-of-way. So it does not have to be a single owner. You could have multiple owners joining in on that. And you would go through the platting process. And as I did not want to bore you with all the text that I showed in 5515, but you would have to go through a formal platting process. Like I mentioned, you have to meet our technical requirements. It has to be approved at the Plat and Street Committee. It has to receive a recommendation of approval. If it gets denied at Plat and Street, that application will not move forward. If it receives an approval, then it moves forward for public hearing, unless they're able to meet one of the exceptions in the city code.
Yeah, it's a complicated, there are lots of variations, obviously, that you have to deal with. And
it's very time consuming. It's a time consuming process.
I have one question. When an applicant is seeking to vacate a roadway, do all property owners abutting that roadway have to participate in the application?
They do, unless there is an exception where you have to sign a hold harmless agreement and bond the property for 4 years. There's a statutory limit of 4 years. And there are other forms where if we're dealing with a property that has an abutting land owned by government. So we've got one that's in the works right now that the abutting owners, the Department of Transportation, they can consent to the plat and not be a signer as far as an applicant on the plat, but we do have to receive their consent.
So if you had two private owners abutting a roadway, one on each side, and one does not want to vacate the roadway, it couldn't happen.
If it is a street, then they both have to be on the application. The exception only exists for an alley.
Okay.
So one final comment that I have, going back to the case that Mr. Ziegler was referring to, we were not entitled to ask about after these alleys were requested to be vacated and the property, all these different lots assembled because the alleys are gone. We were not allowed to ask the developer what he was going to build, and therefore we were not allowed to hear from you what the public benefits were going to be extracted later, not to use that word extracted, were going to be donated to the city by the developer later to build his project, his enormous project. So we were asked to vote on this vacation of these alleys as if they literally had no value, and we might as well give them up because there's no value to them, even though we knew there was going to be a major development there. And now you've told us that there's tremendous amount of expenditures that the developer is going to have to make after the roads, alleyways are vacated. So it put us in a position where I'm almost saying, I don't want to hear anymore. If it's going to be all done administratively and there's no reason for us to ask any reasonable questions, I wouldn't even require it to come before PZAB anymore. Unless somebody else has some other reason to see, we should see these alleyways. It seems like you've got a very thorough review of each one of these situations. And since the public does not own the land in almost every case, certainly in the alleyway case, they're all reversionary interest. What are we even doing reviewing these things?
Well, I can only say that the Planning Street Committee and the reviews that the city staff conducts is a technical and administrative standpoint. PZAB and City Commission, which these closures have to go in front of the City Commission, both provide an opportunity for a public hearing process.
That's what I was going to next. It's back to the old public hearing thing. So, okay.
I know you can't. Can you hear me? I just got one other quick question, and I'm done with it. For the Mr. Santana. Let's just say once the plat process is approved, when do they have to pay for those improvements or make those improvements upon the land? For example, again, going back to that example, we voted to close the alleyways in June. When would this money come into the city, or when do they have to make these improvements?
Okay, so as far as the procedures, as far as the platting process, we must have fully approved right-of-way improvement drawings, and they have to have bonded and provided a subdivision improvement bond to the city for all those improvements that we have required prior to that plat being recorded with Miami-Dade County. As far as when they are constructed, assuming that project continues to move forward, or any project for that matter, those plans are required to be incorporated into their master permit. So when they pull the master permit for construction, all those improvements are now a condition of that master permit, and they must be constructed prior to certificate of occupancies being issued for the buildings that are under construction.
Well, something like that could be 5 years from now. I mean, I'm just looking at the process and how long it takes. I mean, what we give them and what the city gets back. That's my only thing. I'm just looking at it from a business standpoint. It just doesn't make any sense to me that, you're giving out all of the, we're giving all this quote benefits or rights. I mean, I hear the idea that you don't own something, it's not in your deed in your name, but you still have the rights, which basically is the same effect. You still have control over the property. And until you give up that control, they cannot do anything. So the idea that you don't have a deed or anything is not necessarily the primary issue. The issue is that you're giving up these rights, and like I said, we're getting paltry for it. And you don't actually not even get anything, in my opinion, for it, because down the road, if they decide not to do anything, it just sits there. And that's all I'm saying. It's not your fault. I understand the system, and I understand what you have to, what goes on. I'm just saying, in my opinion, it should be at least looked at it and reviewed, and you should definitely get more money for this process of what you're doing. I mean, you're giving them millions of dollars. Not only this project, but look at all the projects. I mean, it's millions of dollars that could be accrued in the city, and they're just sort of sitting there and doing nothing. And something may happen 5 years from now, 10 years from now. Who knows?
So as far as to answer your point, as far as how long it would take, that's a subdivision improvement bond agreement is valid for 1 year, and we do have the authority to extend it. However, if there are no planned improvements, given the fact that we now have fully engineered drawings and now we have a bond valued for that cost of improvements, the city does have the ability to call in that bond and have those improvements constructed.
Right. Okay. No, thank you, Mr. Santana. I appreciate it. On my side, I appreciate it. It was a very good presentation there.
I have a very quick question, Mr. Santana. First of all, thank you for your presentation. And the question is if you could repeat the cases when PSAP has the authority to make a determination unless it's appealed to the city commission. Can you repeat those cases?
So the case where it is for the vacation enclosure of public or private alleys that abut the T3 transit zone, or a T3 transit zone with a higher intensity for development, so it could abut a T4 or T5, as long as that alley has not been improved. So if it's not paved and it's just grass and it's overgrown, then again, those would be submitted to the city. We would review, similar to any closure, it goes through Platt and Street, and then the final hearing for those alley closures is done by PZAB. And that's called the alternate method for alley closures.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your presentation. We'll go on to the next discussion item.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I think I can't hear you, Erica.
Apologies. This is discussion item number 2, file ID 7790. The purpose of this discussion item is to discuss adding an additional PZAB meeting for September 30th.
What would you like to discuss? Would you like us to add one?
Well, yes, we're requesting that the board to add a meeting to September 30th.
Okay, I mean, I don't know, do we need to vote? Can we just?
Yes, we will need a vote. So I need a mover and a seconder.
I'll make a motion.
So
I'll second.
To add
motion to add the meeting.
Yes, motion to add the meeting.
That we have Mr. Gersten as the mover and Vice Chair Torrance.
Yes.
Voice vote?
So I saw the vice chair, you seconded?
Yes, I did.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Aye.
That's unanimous.
I did not hear a nay, so motion passed unanimously. And the last item is discussion item number 3, file ID 7707. This is regarding the health insurance for board members, and this is just to provide an update. The item is being placed on the September 24th, 9 a.m. City Commission agenda, and a board member will need to attend this virtual meeting to present on behalf of the board.
Volunteers.
I volunteer the chairman.
Can't hear you. Can't hear
I volunteer the chairman.
Can't hear you or can't see you.
What is this? Oh.
I think we all. I think the lesson here is that we all need to learn to cauterize our own wounds.
How do you hear me?
No.
So can I get a there?
I honestly don't know what is going on with this.
We can see you and hear you. We can see you and hear you.
Now you hear?
No, I was just trying to ignore you. Because you were trying to make me do it.
Exactly. Oh, okay. I got it. Okay. No. Got it. I think I'm all ready. I'm all good now, right? Okay.
You're good. Front and center.
So the member of our board that brought this forward is no longer with us. Correct?
Is the city commission going to, they have an item to vote on it, or is it to hear it out as a discussion?
I was already here. Chloe Porisoff. It's the third one when you go in.
Arthur, your mic is on.
No, I have him as muted.
Oh, somehow it's.
Took it off.
I hear him at the doctor. So,
So what is it? What is before the city? Is it they have a motion?
It's the resolution that the board proposed.
But it's for them to decide, or
oh, so there's an actual. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, remember that it was supposed to go in, it was on the agenda in February, and then after that, and I believe it was Mr. Gersten who was going to attend at that meeting.
Yeah.
And then COVID, and now it's appearing on the agenda.
Yeah. I heard some comments that were made when I wasn't there by a few of the commissioners was sort of secondhand. I would not put myself in the line of fire. Let's just wait for another commission and
well, because the item was brought by the board, that is why someone would need to be present.
Honestly, I wouldn't be against it. I just feel like if nobody else is even raising their hand to do this, the timing is tough. Obviously, everyone's going to be thinking about budget constraints and all that stuff, even though that really shouldn't weigh into the fact that we put in the hours and that, traditionally we were sort of employees and that we're a quasi judicial board, and which is different than most of the other boards, and that there is sort of a differentiation between us and one other board and another. So I don't know. I mean, if no one else really wants to go and I'm the only one, I don't want to go. But if like 3 people were like, yeah, let's do it, it'd be a different story. That was not persuasive for anyone. All right. Well,
I'll back you up, Adam. I'll go there with you. I'll be in silence. When is it, on the 24th?
Yes, September 24th. 9 a.m. As of right now, there is no time certain. And that meeting is going to be in a virtual setting.
Oh, a virtual setting.
I mean, guys, we're the board here. We can say, hey, this is no longer a priority issue for us, and ask the city to withdraw the item.
I'd make a motion to ask the city to withdraw the item if a motion is necessary.
Second, I really feel that this is not the time. The city has enough going on with deficits from the pandemic, and this is not the time.
Not the time.
We have a motion by vice chair, second by
no reverse.
Reverse.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I made the motion and I believe Vice Chair was a second.
So this is a request to ask to withdraw the item from the city commission.
We want to defer it or just withdraw it?
Let's just withdraw it for now. What my motion is to withdraw.
Yes.
Okay.
I agree.
All right,
And okay.
let's go ahead and call the roll.
Member Gersten,
Yes.
Member Vice Chair Torrance,
Yes.
Member Altabe,
Yes.
Member Collins, Member Collins, your mic is muted and I can't see your video.
You can move
Member
on.
Collins, okay. Member Dominguez,
Yes. Yes.
Sorry, I was having a technical issue.
Member Collins, what's your vote?
Yes.
Member Parrish,
Yes.
Member Ziegler,
Yes.
Member Persoff,
Yes.
Chair Gavalia.
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0. And this is a motion to request to withdraw the item from city commission agenda. We will communicate this.
Our contribution to the fiscal needs of the city.
Okay. And
We're doing something noble.
that concludes our agenda.
I have one question before we conclude. And I apologize, I might have missed it. Did the board want to get a copy of the presentation by the Public Works Department, or was that off?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah. Good.
And I just want to confirm, I'm sorry, and I just wanted to confirm, but I thought I heard counsel for the city acknowledge my request for a legal opinion on the condition for ownership transfers.
Amber, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Did you want something in writing, or did you want
I would
to
like
research
what
this
is, I think they refer to them as LSRs, but I think something along those lines would be necessary on something like this.
Okay.
Member Gerson, can you articulate what you're asking? Can you articulate to me what you're asking for Ms. Ketterer?
Yes. I am asking that the city address and analyze the legality of the range of conditions that have been placed upon exception applicants for transfers of quote unquote transfers of rights or whatever for future purchasers of the business or the property, in light of the fact that this is supposed to be, in other words, I'm sorry, and whether this is something that travels with the land or with the applicant, and what are some of the ways in which the city may achieve its goals of monitoring operators,
Monitoring
and
what?
dealing with operators or dealing with good or bad actors, operators, in lieu of a condition which forces purchasers of either land or business to come in front of the planning and zoning board or any board in a hearing, for that matter.
Okay. What I understood is the city address and analyze legality for a range of conditions on applicants on future transfers,
Mm-hmm.
and whether they travel with the land or the applicant.
Mm-hmm.
And what is the last part? It was a.
I guess we would like to hear what are other ways in which the city might achieve the goal. It's kind of unclear in some ways what the goal is for burdening a future purchaser or someone who's selling to have a future purchaser come in when they haven't even operated yet. So it's hard for me to really get there. I think that someone looking at this legal analysis might, doing the legal analysis might really get to the heart of the real question that's being addressed by placing the condition in the first place. So I think just analyzing the legality of those conditions, the reason for those conditions, and what is the best way forward for the city to achieve its goals and staff to achieve its goals, while also protecting the property owner and purchaser, or business owner and business purchaser. I probably just made that even more difficult.
A little bit, but reason for the conditions, protections to the owner and future owner, and what are other ways that the city can achieve the goal in regards to the burdening of the future purchaser.
Right, not. In other words, I think, very succinctly, you don't want to burden a purchaser or seller with the uncertainty of knowing when they would be heard and upon what basis they would be, that question would be adjudicated as to whether this right transferred. I don't even think it's legal that you could say we're creating an actual underlying right to place a CU. I think a lot of this has to fall on the CU, not on the actual, exception, which then grants an additional right on top of that transect. So I think that this is more a CU question. I assume, I'm thinking that that's, but
and
yeah, I'm sorry, I can't make this any easier. I mean, I someone else could. I can't though.
When are you asking for this by?
I think as soon as possible. Who knows when someone else will apply? I mean, as soon as practicably possible. I don't think it's a really, really deep dive. But I'd say I'll just say this. Hopefully within the next 30 to 60 days, should an application for an exception of any kind come before us that has a condition like this, I would ask that the city speed up its analysis so that no person applying for an exception or any similar thing that would have a similar condition, I'm sorry, I don't know if I cut out, but basically to avoid anyone applying for a similar exception or ask would be forced to abide by that condition. So, 30 to 60 days is great. If in 45 days someone applies for the same exact thing and has to deal with that condition, that the city first give its LSR on that issue prior to us hearing it ever again.
And if I may, Mr. Gersten, I would like to also have the memo address whether the conditions that are like we addressed today, that this one condition to the exception, does that add any additional protections for the city and the public at large if there is some problem with the existing exceptions continuance?
Yeah.
Is that fair, Adam?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think ultimately it's going to come down to enforcement or lack of enforcement when you have the operator.
Well, I'd just like to hear if there's any additional protections that that gives us.
I think it totally fits. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. No, I think it totally fits. Yeah.
Well, if I may, if I can add, Amber, like I said, I sort of really disagree with this because the city's, basically instead of making an exception, now it's right, it's permanent. From what we just did, there's nothing you can do as long as the operator abide by those conditions. They have that exception until perpetuity, it would seem. And if that's going to be the case, why call it an exception? Just sort of make it permanent.
And it's conditional.
Provision is not in there.
No, right, but I get right. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. That's why I said the city is going to lose all their rights for whatever reason if something goes bad. Because there's nothing to do by the operator. You may try to get the operator out now, but now you got a much harder situation. But also, if you're going to make that I was saying, if you're going to make that exception, then don't put it in any more of them that come before us. For what purpose? Because we took it out for what? And if we're going to take it out for that reason, then they don't need.
Sorry, no, Mr. Ziegler. Just to be clear, I wasn't asking it on the basis of just this application. What I'm saying is just to clarify, I'm saying for all future applications that we rely on the city and their certificate of use which is something that they apply for every year and pay for every year. So if a bar operator like Mr. Wrestler, who that exception passed for today, he has to apply for a certificate, or he has to pay for his certificate of use every year, every year. So if there are issues with his operation, there are enforcement methods throughout the entire year through many, through, you got the police, code enforcement, ABT, zoning. Everyone could enforce upon him and say, you cannot continue to pay for a certificate of use because you have no right to a certificate of use, but the underlying land has the exception.
But
guys, we're given some direction to.
Yeah, let's let the attorney.
Let them come back. We'll have a discussion item on this.
Thank you. Sorry.
In 2 paragraphs or less, please, Amber.
I can't promise that one. I will try my best, though.
Thank you.
All right, any final comments? Erica's got a big birthday meal celebration. She's heading to.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. I appreciate
Happy
it.
birthday.
Thank you so much.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay. Thank you all. Good evening. Meeting is adjourned.
Good night. Good to see everyone.
Good evening.
Bye-bye.
Good night.